Hello everyone, welcome to this session where we are speaking to four brilliant writers and storytellers here. And towards the end of this conversation also, we are going to announce the winners of the writers category of Next Big Creator Awards. Without taking much time, sorry for the first 5 minutes delay, I'm going to hand it over now to Shadma Shaikh, who's going to be moderating this chat between Kopal, Vishal and Roshan. Over to you, Shadma.
Thank you, Pawan. I'll just do a quick intro. I think most people here would know you, but I'll just quickly do an intro before we get into the questions. So Roshan Abbas, we all know him. He's the founder of Geometry and Compass, and he's a writer, filmmaker. He has a very interesting career trajectory. Kopal Khanna is famous for her project Paper Tale. I love that. That's a place where stories are shared and used to forge connections. Vishal Dayama is again a very popular person among copywriters and copy lovers. He's the writer behind the very cool scripts, the Cred ads, and his he's campaigned with Cred. So we'll just start off right away because we are a little short on time. We're running late already. So this is a writers panel, right? This is a room full of writers, and there's no other room I would rather be in. But having said that, we are living in very turbulent times. We've been confined to our homes. We're watching the pandemic online, and we're getting updates about a war on social media. So I strongly believe that in a world like this, I think storytellers and writers are the chroniclers of history, right? And they have the power to change the world. So I want to start by understanding each of your views on the power of storytelling and how important do you think is storytelling in our world, and how do you think writers can use storytelling to improve their craft? So whoever wants to go first. Kopal, do you want to start?
I can start, yeah.
Sure.
For somebody who hears stories 24/7, tells stories for a living, I think, going by the cliche, the world is not made up of atoms, it's made up of stories. I genuinely believe in that, right? I think all of us, whether it's somebody who's working at a corporate, somebody who's making a sales pitch, running a company, politicians, everybody's telling stories, everybody's selling stories, right? So stories are the core of communication and existence, essentially, right? So yeah, just being able to tell a story simply, a complicated story in the most simple, authentic, honest way, I think can really take you places. So storytelling, stories for me is everything. It's like, for me, it's life, because that's what I do for a living as well. So yeah.
And it's not just for the writers, basically. Even if you are in the I'm connected to the startup world, so all the product managers, they need to tell a story. They need to have the clearer thoughts. So many times we hear people writing it down, and they write it down to have us to understand the story themselves and then be able to tell to the world. So it's not just in the writing world or a copywriting world, it's a universally thing.
I think we're losing. Vishal, can you hear us?
Okay, can you hear me? Roshan, sir, you're on mute.
Roshan, sir, you're on mute. You need to unmute. Yeah, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Is it okay now? You can hear me?
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I was saying Vishal is in a place where atoms are moving faster than stories. See, essentially, I think there was a lovely experiment which happened once where a man bought a couple of objects from eBay, put them back on eBay, and then wrote a story around each of the objects. And when he wrote a story about the object, like suppose he bought a doll, and then after that he wrote about saying this doll belonged to so-and-so, I bought it at this place, this is the backstory of the doll. And when he did that, the price at which he was able to sell them, if I remember correctly, was about 20x of the price at what he bought them. So he just wanted to prove that stories can have monetary value. Now that's a very simple thing, because that object without a story is just an object. It's like, all of us are able to therefore give people a reason to communicate, a reason to connect. And I think that's what stories do. Stories give us a reason to come together. And they answer all the whys of life, right? I mean, Vishal ka commercial dekho to Shah Rukh Khan kyun nahi tha ab tak? Acha, oh, all the other stars are there. Aap kyun nahi hai? It's a why that you want to answer. I mean, I just think that there are zindagi mein itne whys hote hain that stories are the things that really fill in those gaps. I call them trapdoors to other worlds and other people's imagination. It's such a wonderful thing. Kaun nahi jana chahta?
Right. And there's clearly no one-stop formula for great writing, right? But in your respective careers, and you've had a long careers, right? So since each of you have had a few great successes of connecting deeply with audiences, what do you think makes a piece of writing great?
Kopal.
Did you guys hear me?
We can hear you, yeah.
Did you get the question, or do you guys are saying?
Do you want me to repeat the question for you?
Yeah, she seems to be having a bit of lag.
I can't hear anything though, so
she can't.
Struggling. I'll figure it out.
Is there anyone else who can solve this for us?
Can someone from the Emmy team or the Pepper team just go back and see what Kopal's issue is? Yeah, I think Pawan is going to do that. So
I'll just call Kopal and
till
sort
that
this
point
out.
in time, I'll just take the You can log her out and log her in. Yeah. So just repeat your question. One.
Yeah, can you hear me? Roshan, can you hear me?
Shadma, do you want to repeat your question or?
Yeah, but I will repeat the question, but can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So I just wanted to understand, based on your...
Just 1 second.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I think there's some sort of lag. Yeah, so I just wanted to understand, based on your respective careers, right? What do you think makes a piece of writing great?
Frankly, I think anything that connects with a person and stays with them. See, there is anecdotal writing, kuch aisi cheezein hoti hai which you hear and they just go into the residue of your mind. But there's stuff that stays with you. Like this morning, I was with someone who said, I was at a breakfast at a person's house, and in the breakfast they suddenly served achar, and she turned and said, achar is my childhood. And immediately after that, she started telling me a story about it. And what happened was it just sort of connected at a different level. And for me now, that's a story I wanted to hear. So frankly, anything to be a great story is something that stays with you after you've heard it. That's my personal.
Yeah. I agree with Roshan, sir. Like either it connects with you, or it surprises you. So those are the two elements for me. Like in the shorter format, the surprise becomes more important, more than the nostalgia. In the longer format, sometimes like anecdotal or nostalgia, or like we use these elements which are like which makes for great stories. So these are the two for me.
Right. You talked about a short format, right, Vishal? And we are living in the times of attention economy. So micro content as such, right, is very much in demand. So do you think a content format like micro content, where you have, almost like 20 seconds or 240 characters, where you can grasp the attention of the audience, does that in some way limit a writer and their creativity? And, is there a playbook to achieve that?
So see, I think there is no certain definition of a writer. So you have to adapt to different things where you want to be getting published. So, but having said that, like if you are posting, let's say, just 6 slides on Instagram, so it might limit you when you want to go back to writing a novel or something like that, like a bigger project, because your thought process may be for some time it's limited to just like 300 words. So
Right.
it does, but because the platform is so big, it's making you viral, so your book will sell if you're famous.
No, I just want to say one thing about short format, Shadma, what you were saying, that what happens with short format is, I heard a beautiful thing that someone said, that when the device in your hand is like this, then it's short attention. The minute you make it this way, the minute you go widescreen, you start paying more attention because we are used to long formats. हम फिल्में wide में देखते हैं, हम television wide में देखते हैं, right? So it was a beautiful thing, saying that instead of vertical, the minute you make it horizontal, you are paying more attention. But you see, the other thing is just like what Vishal said, that कहानी में, see, a story can be told in a single frame, and 30 seconds is enough if you want to tell it. I saw this beautiful, beautiful commercial where there's a lady who keeps going to a metro station. She waits outside the metro, London metro, goes back every day. And right at the end, you realize that she never boards the train. And these voices keep coming saying the next train will come at this time, the next train will come at this time. And right at the end, you were told that she only used to go there because her husband was the man who was the announcer and he's no more. Right now,
so she just goes to hear his voice.
Right? That's it. Now see, when it lands with you, this story will stay with you. It doesn't need, time is not the thing. But just as Vishal said, the longer the format gets, the format suddenly moves from what we call is a, that you have a protagonist, you have an obstacle, and you have a goal. Now suddenly, the minute the landscape starts widening, everything changes. What is the setup? Who is the muse? Who are the characters? What is the inciting incident? What will carry the person? And I'm telling you, when I made my first film, I didn't know many of these things, which is why I didn't make a very good film. I often say this. But the truth is that Vishal, when it was a play, I knew it better because I knew the medium. The other thing is, हर medium के लिए लिखना अलग होता है. And for me, the joy has been that I have written for radio, television, theatre, film, etc. And every time it's like a fresh learning. ऑडियो के लिए जब आप लिखते हैं, you're far more descriptive. Shadma earrings पहने हुए बैठी थी. You don't need to do it you don't have to say that in a video, right?
Correct.
You don't have to say कि विशाल के ऊपर धूप जो थी वो.
Correct.
Can you hear?
Yeah. No, I can't. We lost connection.
I think his connection is lagging a bit again. And I'm also
going so well.
Yeah. I'm also speaking to Kopal and trying to get her join again. I think there are people who have put in so many questions in the Q&A tab.
I see that.
I see a lot of questions. Okay, I think Roshan is
back.
Hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. I think you got interrupted. You want to continue?
Sorry. आज
Let me just call him. And can we take up the audience questions till that time? Will that be okay?
Sure. So do you want to continue your what you were saying earlier? You were talking about different mediums and how it is different to tell a story in a different medium.
Yeah. Sorry.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Medium. Can you hear me? Audio? No. Sorry. Yeah. Guys. Sorry. The internet today is playing truant with all of us. My apologies. So see, the internet is the obstacle. If it was an audio story, I've got to tell you about the obstacle. If it was a video story, I don't need to. So मैं वही कह रहा था कि every medium teaches you a new form. What doesn't change is the core of the story, which is, as I said, there must be some emotional resonance. There must be something that carries you over a point, and you feel, as I said, that you're moved, you're changed. And what Vishal said, that either it shocks you, surprises you, amazes you. But I encourage writers to write for as many different mediums as they can, because the more they will write, वो बड़ा मजा आता है. Short form लिखो, long form लिखो, audio लिखो, video लिखो, film लिखो. It's really a joy. Experiment a lot more.
Right. And I also wanted to ask, this is something that I personally wanted to, understand from your perspective, is creative writing as such is a process that's very dependent on, motivation or muse kind of thing, right? So how does a writer get over that? I mean, in absence of motivation, how do you continue to produce creative content? And Vishal, Roshan, both of you can answer this for me.
Personally, because
Vishal is very motivated. He writes lots of stuff.
no, so I read this great quote by Murakami. So what he does is basically wakes up at 4, writes like 6 hours, then goes to swimming. So what essentially he means is there needs to be a discipline. So if you are going to be a professional writer, so you can't like waste 10 days in writer's block. Like you have to write
Correct.
anything that comes to your mind. So if it's bad, it won't come again. So might as well just write it out. So what I do essentially is like, and Instagram is a great motivation. So if you're if you're getting direct validation for all of your writings, so
Correct.
might as well just publish one piece every week and see how people are liking it, and then
Response to it, yeah.
keep tweaking it, start a newsletter.
Hmm.
So that's how I keep
Hmm.
myself motivated in writing, by having a discipline of some sort.
Right. So consistency is better than waiting for motivation. Is what you're saying.
Yes.
Roshan sir,
I
Otherwise,
would
we'll
hi.
go
quickly add,
broke.
Shadma, that
Hi, I can hear you guys.
Glad to
Sorry.
have you back. Sorry, you were saying.
Sorry.
yeah. So basically, on to your question about motivation, I believe a very old thing I often say is कि खाद नहीं डालोगे तो उपज नहीं होगी. So the simple
Correct.
thing is, one is there must be a discipline, but the other thing which is critical is feeding the mind, finding enough. I'll tell you that there's a finite limit
Yes.
if you're not consuming enough stuff. Consume.
Correct.
You want to write films? Watch films, read their screenplays. You want to write for audio? Listen to audio, read the scripts. This Prasoon Joshi told me in a session which we were doing on something. He says, the good thing and the bad thing is that you have the record button in front of you, and nobody is asking you why. While in the case of writing, the need to ask the why. मुझे हर रोज 100 कहानियां आती है, पर मैं सोचता हूँ, is there a reason to tell them? And the good ones I write away somewhere and I keep, and the other ones I just keep on the side. Some are anecdotes, one-line jokes or whatever, etc. वो चली जाती है. पर why बहुत बड़ा critical है, कि लिखना तो सब कोई भी लिख सकता है. मैं ये नहीं कहता हूँ सब लिख सकते हैं. मेरे सामने समय यहाँ पर कुछ 10-15 लोग बैठे हैं, इनको दे दिया जाएगा, they will all be able to write something. But the why is very critical, because otherwise, see, our feeds are bombarded with so many things. How many of them are truly worth it? Right? And therefore curation, what Kopal does, and I'm sort of queuing in because Kopal's just come back saying that Kopal's curation, I think, is phenomenal, which is what makes the difference. That's the why. Kopal, over to you.
Right. So Kopal, I'll repeat the question for you. We were talking about, how do you get over the creative block, or, in absence of motivation or in absence of a muse, how do you continue to, push out creative content? And want to hear your views about that.
So there are two things. Okay, so one example. So I recently read this in a book that actually Roshan had only suggested on his feed, and I ended up reading it, The Artist's Way. It's such a phenomenal book, and I just keep talking about it all the time. And
what's the book again?
The Artist's Way.
The Artist's Way.
Yeah.
By Julia Cameron.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
So it had this beautiful imagery. She talks about filling the well. And she's like, all of us as creators, and by that she means that everybody who exists is a creator.
Yeah.
You have a well to fill with images, and there is essentially, these are your experiences. And it can be anything. It can be you traveling in a local train. It can be you in a metro. You walking on a road. You're constantly filling that well with images. And every time you're working on anything creative or you're writing something, you're drawing from this creative well, and you're using up your images. So this well is constantly drying up. So your creator is also to just be like, let's fill this well again, and let's consume more, let's listen more, let's have more conversations, let's travel. So I think that's a very important part of being a creator. But that being said, one thing that I also realized, for somebody who has to create content on a regular, daily, weekly basis, discipline is the key, right? Like sometimes you can't wait for inspiration,
motivation
to happen. Sometimes you just have to, as a creator, create. That's your job. So I think there's a fine line between these two things for me. Yeah.
Interesting. It's sort of a combination of what Vishal and Roshan sir said, but yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense as a writer to me too. So another thing that I wanted to ask you guys is, we say that creativity is something, it's a process that takes time, right? But we are also living in a world where, trends pop up every second and deadlines are getting shorter by the day. So how does a writer balance creativity and time?
Vishal.
I think the corporate guys know this better, right?
No, so essentially, when it comes to be a balance between time and creativity, one thing is that this process of writing all the time, when it becomes a habit, then you've got material with you. Some of that material can be used. I mean, somebody once said that if I'm able to come to you with something in a couple of hours, don't forget that I might have 20 years of experience. So I heard of a great writer, I must tell you, who said that मेरे दोस्त हैं वो lyricist हैं, तो उनको गाना लिखने को दिया गया, तो he said कि मैं 3 हफ्ते लूंगा. तो I went to him later, I said आप तो 2 घंटे में लिख देते हैं. कहते लेकिन इनको उसकी वैल्यू नहीं पता है. वो क्या करेंगे कि वो मुझे अगर 2 घंटे में लिखूंगा तो उनको लगेगा अरे तो 2 घंटे में लिख दिया. They will not value the 20 years of experience. तो इस कि मैं 2 घंटे में लिख के एक ड्रॉर में रखता हूँ, फिर 3 हफ्ते बाद दूंगा. So give yourself, Shadma, give deadlines. Give deadlines that are number one real. And do not fall for the trap of I want this now. The I want this now में बड़ा simple होता है. See, one of 3 things can be done. You can control quality, right? Or you can manage the time, or you can manage the money. So somebody said that इनका 2 ही चीजों का combination आप कर सकते हो, it will not happen. So somewhere, right, you've got to realize something will be compromised. If you want it now and you want it for less money, the quality will be compromised. If you have the money and you have the time, you will get great quality, right? So I'm saying that you've got to understand, and it is very important for an artist to either be able to tell this to the person paying you or sending you the deadline. If you can't, get yourself a manager. And I'll tell you, there are people I know who started very early in their career, उनके पास manager नहीं होता, तो अपने माँ बाप को लगा देते थे, किसी अपने cousin को बिठा देते थे, just to build that one block in between. मैं लोगों का मैनेजर बनाऊँ ना लाइफ में, मेरे दोस्तों के इतने लोग के फोन उठा के नहीं वो तो बहुत बिजी है क्योंकि मेरा काम होता था, but you give yourself a good deadline and don't fall for this trap. You can't hustle and create great stuff in no time and whatever, and God forbid you do the first time, they'll expect it every time.
Correct. Word of advice. Yeah, there's a very interesting question from Richa, who's a content writer. She's saying, despite creative writing, how content writing about facts can be creative. So she's saying, when you're stating facts, how can you be more creative with your storytelling?
There's so many ways. See, a fact can be, I can tell you so many different ways, because see, the idea is that the facts are your spine. उसके ऊपर आप क्या मास लगाने वाले हैं, what is going to be the structure of the thing is up to you. You've got 10 facts to tell. Now, if you turned and said 10 things you never knew before, suddenly it's got a level of interest. You make it into a quiz. If you play with format, very often you see content writing, you get stuck with the fact of saying, okay, I've got to write for a medical company who wants an article on, how to on wellness. Now, if you approach it saying, I have to write an article for a company on wellness, जितना बोरिंग आपको लगेगा उतना बोरिंग आप लिखोगे. पर अगर आप उसी बात को कन्वर्ट करके, if you turn and say, you know what, I really want to make sure that every person who's under the age of X on reading this article turns and asks a question to somebody, then you will think of a format that is interesting. How many of you have ever asked, do these creams really work? How many of them have ingredients that are worth it? So you've got to think again of the same hook. A hook can become... Vishal ko batane do.
No, I'm just saying... No, I'm saying, adding to Roshan's point, I'm just saying, like, for these kind of writing, just write what you want to read. So if you want to read, just certain kind of thing that you want to read, then just write like that. Don't go into jargons if that's what you want to avoid. Just write in a plain, simple language. Like that is Scorsese's quote. No, like what's most personal is most creative. So just keep writing what you will understand.
Right, it's relatability, right? Like if you can make that person find, like if I'm reading something, I can find myself in that story, I'm immediately hooked, right? So to be able to do that, to know who your target audience is, and to be able to get that target audience in your stating of that story or of those facts, I think that's where the connect happens, right? So making it relatable.
There's a lot of new technologies that come up very frequently, and people talk about AI being able to write copies now, like they are going to make journalists obsolete. So do you think the rapidly changing technology, where we see like new formats emerging every day, and there are new trends every day, is there a possibility that that could obsolete good writing? I mean, there are developments like Web3 and metaverse. Does that influence writing as a creative enterprise, according to you guys?
As a creative enterprise, no, because I mean, I personally feel like creativity is like creativity is something that's human, right? It's born out of
Correct.
experiences, it's born out of that, right? So I don't think आप creatively उसको replace कर सकते हो, and yeah, so I mean, I think that would be my answer. Like I don't think so. I don't see it getting replaced. The creative
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah. Sure.
No, I tried, Shadma, I tried a couple of these softwares, and because I'm a geek, so I mean, I keep trying them to see what are they doing. You know what happens? First day बड़ा मजा आता है. Oh, उसने मुझको एक लाइन दे दी. अरे my God, it thought of a new title. But after a while, after one or two attempts, it has a see. AI works after a certain amount of input, which creates for the neural brain to be able to come out with saying, "Acha, I have now 10 million inputs. Now I'll come out with something." Our brain has got billions of synapses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you just take a walk and you will know much more than that.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that, and predictability is fine to some degree. Occasionally, you can go to a content engine and whatever. I mean, I know Pepper is a place where you can go and find yourself headlines. Yes, of course, I've used it. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun and it's a provocation. It can't be the answer.
Yeah. It'll be a challenge, I feel like if an AI has become more creative, then you will want to become more creative than the AI. So it's going to go like that instead of giving up. Yeah.
Sure. So let's just take a couple of questions from the audience. There's somebody asking, how do you develop the art of storytelling? Is that something that you could? Is that something you? That's an ability you're born with, or is that something you could also get better at? With practice or whatever.
So I personally believe that. So Taper Tale's tagline is "Everybody has a story," right? So, but what makes, like, everybody has a story, but being able to tell those stories is what makes you a storyteller, right? And how do you tell those stories? By like just literally starting to write them and telling them, right? That's the only, like, I don't think I can obviously conduct workshops and tell you, okay, this is where this can get better, this is how you can probably have a better beginning, a better end, or a better body to your story. But I think everybody can tell stories. I think it's just about writing that first draft, getting on that stage and telling that first story, right? And because storytelling to matlab, it's such an age old craft, right? Like हम लोग हमेशा से कर रहे हैं storytelling. अभी उसके अलग अलग
Right, but then some people are good storytellers and some of them are not, right?
Right. So I feel that everybody can tell stories. What differentiates a professional storyteller from anybody who, like you said, that they're good storytellers and bad storytellers, right? But then I think the more you spend time on stage, that's how you better your craft, right? Like that's the only way. You keep practicing. Go on that stage, attend open mics, listen to a lot more stories.
Yeah, listening, like taking more stories inside of you. Yeah.
That is what would be the differentiating factor for me.
Sure.
I would just add that, if you see, understand the building blocks, because we all have material का निचोड़ निकाल के making the story, crafting the story is the first part of the problem. So I've heard so many people when we used to do storytelling in the early days of commune who would come with something, but it was not structured. The minute you would structure it, right, things would change. So say for example, I remember at a place somebody came and said, it was a startup, and the startup guy was coming up with an app where he was talking about better health. Now it was very boring, better health, this, better health, that. And then suddenly he turned and said, I said, what made you start this startup? He says, I used to go to the gym, एक दिन मैं weight उठा रहा था, weight मेरे हाथ से गिर गया because my bone broke. And I went to the doctor and he said, तुम जी कैसे रहते? You had your bones were so brittle because of this issue, and this is a problem. I said, वहां से कहानी शुरू करो ना. Start the story in the gym.
Yeah.
You're lifting a weight and your hand breaks in half. Now the audience wants to know, फिर क्या हुआ? Nobody wants to know, saying, I'm making a health app. It will benefit the country. So the building blocks, and I mean, I think all of us do workshops on this. I personally conduct a lot of storytelling workshops just for this reason. Because yes, as Kopal said, everybody has a story, but uska construction, part one hai. Getting to people, I'll tell you, start with yourself. Pehle to apni kahani ko khud, we have a philosophy which says write, read, reduce, repeat. लिखो, पढ़ो, reduce करो, repeat करो, 3-4 बार ऐसे करो जिससे कि उसका निचोड़ निकले. Once you've done that, then find a bunch of good friends to tell the story to, who will not mind even if you bore the life out of them. Right? And those good friends can be people at Taper Tail. Those good friends can be people who you meet otherwise. Why do you bounce off your idea? And after you've done that, get some feedback. Ask what stayed. And then start moving into this next phase. Unfortunately, while what Kopal is saying, I agree with, but I'm also a little scared that sometimes when you go to an open mic and if your first experience is bad, it scares a lot of people.
Yeah.
So thoda baby steps and then move on.
There's another question. Pawan, can we take this? I'll just quickly read the question on how to build a strong brand through content writing.
It's a very cliched answer. Just keep doing it. Just keep writing, and you'll find an audience eventually. Like what I say to everyone is, India is so big that there is an audience for everyone. So if you keep doing it, you'll find an audience. But you won't find it in the first post that you are making on Instagram.
And also, I think it's very important to remember that art, writing, they're very subjective things, right? So, like what even Roshan said, right? You go to your first open mic and it's a bad experience because somebody gives you negative feedback and you shut down as an artist. But you need to remember that if your piece is being rejected or it's being subjected to a lot of critical feedback, you need to take it, of course, and figure out what's right for you in that sense. Because art at the end of the day is subjective, and I think there is an audience for everything. Like I meet so many people who are not fond of Taper Tales content, right? But then there are people who like Taper Tales content, so that does not make me believe less in what I am creating. Right. So I think I'll take feedback from people, but at the same time, I know what I'm doing. Right. So I think that is very important for you to just realize that what you're creating is also subjective.
Right. Sure. Pawan, do you want to wrap this up? Because you said we have a hard stop at 5:40 and we are at 5:40.
If you want, we can take one more question from the audience. If you want to pick anybody, Vishal, Kopal, Shadma,
so you all can also read the questions, right? So do you think you find anything interesting that you want to talk about? There's a long list of questions actually. Roshan, someone wants to know what is the train station story. What is the train station story?
The train station story, that's what I'm saying. I remember these things. Yeah, I'm sorry, I get a little. मुझे exact वो याद नहीं, but I will send the link to Pawan and he'll share it with all of you guys.
Sure.
Okay.
So somebody says there's a saying that copywriter is a salesman. You think copywriters are also a writer or just salesman? I just want to tell you that I learned at the first coalition organized by OML the art of. So I remember I went on stage and I said the biggest learning I've had is learn to sell shamelessly. I know it's not easy, but if you spent hours writing it, you must have the ability to have the joy of spending hours selling it. Because if you don't, it remains just an idea. वो execute नहीं होता. अगर खुद नहीं कर सकते, then find someone. Find your hustler. Find your wingman. Find the person who's going to support. Find that manager. Somebody will go and represent you. You know that. You remember in Love Actually there was that that manager, right, who was always, nahi, I will make sure that your Christmas song is a success. You need that if you can't do it yourself.
Right. And if you are not going to promote your story, why should someone else do it, right? I mean, I feel it that way.
Yes.
Okay, I think we'll have to wrap it up. And before we end this, of course, we have to do the winner announcements of the writers category. A lot of folks who are here in the chat want to know who the winners of this category are. Just want to first check if anybody here is a nominee from this category. So can you just type in like, yes, I am a nominee. Okay. Okay, great. I think a lot of people, and they would be eager to know who the winners are of this category.
Yeah.
And great, I'm going to just present my screen and give you all a glimpse of who the winners are of the Next Big Creators Writers category, and also a bit of how the entire initiative was and how we received more than 10,000 nominations across different categories, out of which 5,000 was the highest number of nominations that we got were in the writers category. And it took us almost like 2 weeks of time to like come to like the top 2,000, top 1,000, top 600, and then eventually to these top five writers. And the entire winner list, not just in this category, is evaluated by a jury as well as a public voting that, of course, all of you who were nominees must be knowing this. And these were across categories. Somebody is a newsletter writer, a Twitter titan, somebody is on LinkedIn, and across various categories. To let you all know, right from, let's say, who the fifth person is in this category, I'm not sure if Ghazal is here. Ghazal is ranked at the fifth rank in the writers category. Ghazal, if you're here in the chat, just like say hi, yes, if you're there. Or if you're friends with Ghazal, go tell her that she's one of the winners in the writers category. The fourth rank in this is given to Mehak Mirza Prabhu. Again,
No,
Mehak, if
Ghazal,
you're here.
you were very, very good.
And if Mehak, you are also here, just like ping us in the chat and let us know that you are here. The third person in this category is Sindhu Shiv Prasad. I hope Sindhu is also here or maybe watching us this streaming somewhere. The second person in this category is Tuhina Raj. And now to the first person who receives a cash grant of 50,000 rupees and also 1 year access to Skillshare subscription where you can learn more than 35,000 courses all for free. And this is given to all winners across different categories. The first winner in the writers category is Saloni. And congratulations to each one of you who have been rewarded in this category. We really look forward to meeting each one of you virtually tonight. We'll send you like a celebration party call after the event. But Roshan, any last concluding congratulatory statements or anything that you want to tell the nominees who are here? Can you hear us?
But you did say words. Yeah, I get worried nowadays because as I'm getting older, any last word sounds a little dangerous. But no. I just think you just got to be. I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Yes.
Sorry, can you hear me? Can you hear me? No.
Yes.
So I'm typing this because maybe if you can't get me there, any last words is a bit of a dicey. Mostly what I want to say is just keep writing. I mean, stay with it, guys. You have a power which nobody else has. आपके शब्द जो है ना वो लोगों की जिंदगी को बदल सकते हैं. इससे बड़ी चीज क्या हो सकती? And if you just do that, the magic of using all those letters at your command, keep language dies over a period of time. Every generation has its own set of words and phrases and things that come out. बस लिखते रहिए क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि शब्द ही दुनिया को बदल सकते हैं. क्योंकि आपके शब्द अगर इतने पावरफुल हैं. जावेद साहब ने एक बार बोला था, सॉरी लास्ट थिंग आई से, ही सेड राइटर कभी बार इतना अच्छा लिख देते हैं कि करना मुश्किल हो जाता है. पर अगर आप इतना अच्छा लिखें कि लोग करने लगे तो इससे अच्छा क्या हो सकता है. सो आई थिंक द ओनली वे फॉरवर्ड इज दैट कीप राइटिंग. दिल में है तो लिखो.
Wow. Everybody who won and everybody who also nominated themselves, I think this is the best piece of advice. Just keep writing, and I think that's a great point to end this good, like a amazing conversation. And sorry for the technicality and small glitches. We really apologize for that. Sometimes it's just out of our hands. So sorry about that. But thank you so much, everyone who joined in. Congratulations to all the winners, and thank you so much, Shadma, Kopal, Vishal, Roshan, for giving us your time today.
Thank you. It was
Thank
fun.
you for having us.
Yes. Thank
Thank
you, guys. Thank you. So good to catch up.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. Take care.